Looking for a fun way to boost your English? Quick chats, easy tips, and a whole lot of poppin' energy, all in one place. This is Podcast Popcorn. Let's pop into it and make learning fun.
Today, we're really looking closely at something pretty important for English learners, that big challenge. How do you stop thinking in your own language first before you try to speak English?
Yeah, it's a really common sticking point, isn't it?
It is. It can make you feel kind of stuck, you know?
Yeah.
Makes speaking slower, and maybe English doesn't sound quite as natural as you'd like.
Exactly. So for this, we've looked at quite a few things, some articles with practical tips.
Right.
Even a study looking at how your first language, your L1, impacts learning English, and also just what people talk about in language learning groups.
Okay.
And our goal really is just to pull out the most helpful ideas for you to help you speak English, well, more directly.
Yeah, exactly. We know you want to learn, you want to get the knowledge.
Yeah.
But maybe not feel too overwhelmed by everything.
Right. Too much information isn't helpful.
So, yeah, we're here to give you some clear, actionable steps, things you can actually do, and maybe shed light on some things, give you those aha moments. So let me ask you this. Have you ever found yourself thinking, fully in your native language first, and then searching for the English words?
Yeah, that pause while you're searching.
Exactly. It
That's
slows
right.
you down in conversations, right?
Right.
If that sounds like you, well, you're definitely not alone.
Not at all.
And we're going to dig into why that happens.
Okay, yeah, let's look at that. Because, it's super common when you first start learning English to translate in your head. It really is.
It makes sense, though.
It does. When you're new to English, the language you already know, your first language, well, that's your reference point. It's how you understand new things.
Right. It's like your brain's trying to connect the dots. You hear an English word, and your brain automatically goes, okay, what's the word for that in my language?
Exactly. And then when you want to speak, it feels almost automatic to think it through in your own language first.
Okay. So there's a name for this.
Yeah, we often call it L1 interference. L1 just meaning your first language.
L1 interference.
It just means your first language is, affecting how you learn and use your second language, L2, which is English here.
Got it.
So, a really simple example. If you feel hungry, you might think the whole sentence, I am hungry, in your language first.
Word for word.
Word for word. You picture the words for I am hungry in your head, then you find the English ones. It's like your L1 is trying to be helpful, but
But it actually adds an extra step.
exactly. It can get in the way a little bit.
And, I mean, it's totally okay to start like that, right? It's
Yeah.
understandable.
Oh, absolutely. It's part of the process.
But the thing is, if you rely on that translating step for too long, well, it can really slow down your fluency, can't it?
It really can, because it takes up mental energy,
Right.
brain power,
Right.
and it takes time, real time.
And time you often just don't have when you're actually, talking to someone. It happens fast.
It does. And think about that process for a second. It's actually quite long. Well, you hear someone speak English. Step 1. Then you translate that into your native language in your head. Step 2.
Okay.
Then you figure out your reply, but in your native language. Step 3.
Still thinking in L1.
Right. Then you have to translate that reply back into English. Step 4. Then you finally speak. Step 5.
Wow. Okay, when you lay it out like that,
Yeah.
That's a lot going on.
It's a lot. And it shows why learning to think more directly in English is, so much more efficient. It cuts out those middle steps.
It really does highlight why thinking directly in English is the goal, isn't it? Even if it takes time to get there. So, okay, the big question then is how? How can we actually start doing that? Let's get into some really simple practical steps,
Yeah.
especially for someone maybe just starting out, at that A1 level.
Absolutely. Let's make it super practical. So here's a really basic one you can start, right now. Start to name the things you see around you in English.
Just,
Yeah. Look at everyday objects in your room, maybe your kitchen, wherever you are. And immediately think of the English word. Don't think of the word in your native language first, just English.
okay. So I look at my screen here, and I just think computer,
Exactly.
or the glass on my desk, water.
Perfect. Simple, common things. What this does is it helps your brain build a direct link. Object, English word, no detour through your first language.
I like that. Direct link. Okay. What else?
Okay, another thing. Try to say phrases you hear native English speakers use.
Okay, like copying.
Kind of, yeah. When you're listening, maybe it's a really simple English learning video or a kid's song in English.
Right, something easy.
Pay attention to how they say simple stuff, short phrases. And when you hear one, try saying it yourself, out loud if you can.
Ah, okay. So not just listening, but actually saying it.
Yes. It helps your mouth, your muscles get used to making English sounds, and you start to feel how words fit together naturally in English.
So like repeating after those YouTube videos for learners.
Exactly. Even if you don't catch every single word, just mimicking the sound, the rhythm,
Yeah.
it helps.
Got it. Okay, what's next?
This one might feel a bit strange at first, but try to have specific times when you only use English.
Only English. Like no native language allowed.
Yeah, even if it's just for, say, 5 or 10 minutes a day, pick a time or maybe a place in your home. Like, when I'm in the kitchen, I only think and maybe talk to myself in English.
Huh. Like creating a little English bubble.
Exactly. It forces you, gently, to try to think and express simple ideas in English because you've taken away the option of translating first.
So for an A1 learner, this could be really simple, right? Like when I'm eating breakfast,
Perfect example.
I just think I am eating or name the food. Bread, juice, egg.
Yes, exactly that level. Just connecting the activity or the object directly with simple English words or phrases.
Okay, that sounds doable. Now, what about like TV shows or movies? People always say watch stuff in English.
Right. That leads to the next tip. Watch English TV or movies without subtitles. BUT. And this is important. Start with really simple content.
Simple how?
Think cartoons for very young children or shows specifically designed for English language beginners.
Ah, okay. Because they use basic words.
Exactly. Very clear, simple vocabulary, often spoken slowly. And the pictures, the visuals, they help you understand the story even if you don't know every word.
That makes sense. What if even that feels too hard without subtitles?
Good question. You could try watching something you already know really well. Maybe you've seen it with subtitles in your language before. Watch it again, but this time without any subtitles. Your brain already knows the story, so it can focus more on the English sounds.
Okay, sort of easing into it. I like that.
Now, this leads to something important. What happens when you're trying to speak? You're in that moment and you just blank on a word, a simple word.
Yep, panic sets in. Grab the dictionary.
Right. So the next tip is try not to rely on your dictionary immediately when you're practicing speaking.
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's such a reflex.
It is. But think about it. When you're practicing speaking, the goal is to communicate, to keep the flow going.
Okay.
So instead of stopping everything to look up the word, try to describe it using other simple English words you do know.
Like circumlocution, talking around the word.
Exactly. So if you forget the word pen, you could say, it's the thing. You write with it on paper.
Ah, I see. Using the words you have?
Yes. Or if you're talking to someone, just ask them, what's the English word for? Or how do you say,
Right. That keeps the conversation moving too. And you learn the word in context.
Precisely. It's a much more natural way to learn and practice.
Okay, this next one sounds really useful. You mentioned training responses to common questions.
Yes. This is about making some things automatic. Think about those questions you hear constantly in English.
Like, how are you?
The classic, or what's your name? Where are you from? Very basic stuff.
Okay, so practice the answers.
Practice quick, almost automatic answers. So for how are you, practice saying, I'm good, thanks, I'm okay, not bad, really quickly, without even thinking about translating it.
Ah, so it becomes like a reflex.
Exactly. And you know what? It makes your conversations feel so much faster right away if you don't have that pause for the super common stuff.
The whole thing flows better. Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, let's shift to how you actually, study English. Our next tip is about your learning materials. Try to use materials where the explanations are also in simple English.
So, not using books that explain English grammar in my native language.
If possible, try to find ones that explain English using English. Simple English, of course. Maybe books or worksheets designed for international learners.
Why is that helpful?
Because it keeps you in English mode. You start understanding English concepts through English itself, building those direct connections in your brain again instead of always filtering it through your L1.
Okay, thinking in English about English. Makes sense.
And building on that idea, focus on learning simple phrases, not just single words in isolation.
So instead of just memorizing the word happy,
learn I am happy, or instead of just go, learn let's go, or I go to school.
Ah, okay. So you get the word and how it's actually used.
Exactly. You get context. You learn a little chunk of language you can use immediately without having to piece it together word by word from a translation.
Yeah.
It sounds more natural, too.
That's a really good point. Phrases are more useful than just lists of words.
Definitely. Okay, here's another way to weave English into your day. Try thinking about your daily activities in English.
Like narrating my life in my head.
Kind of, but super simple. When you're doing basic things, eating, walking, washing dishes, just try to think about it in simple English. I am eating, I walk, I wash the plate.
Okay. Simple subject, verb, object sentences.
Yes. What's great about this is first, it's constant, gentle practice. Second, you quickly notice which simple everyday words you don't know in English yet.
Ah, like, what's the English word for sponge?
Exactly. And then you can look that up, maybe using our next tip.
Which is?
If you do need to look up a new simple word, try using a learner's dictionary, if you can find one that uses simple English definitions.
A learner's dictionary. How's that different?
They're specifically designed for non-native speakers. So instead of a complex definition or just a direct translation, they explain the English word using other, easier English words.
I see. So you're understanding the meaning in English, not just swapping it for a word in your language.
Precisely. It keeps you immersed in English thinking. Some even have example sentences using simple grammar.
Okay, those are a lot of really practical tips. Things people can start trying straight away.
Yeah, the key is finding one or two that feel right for you and trying to be consistent.
Now, you mentioned immersion. Let's talk a bit more about the importance of just being around English, even at this beginner A1 level. How important is that?
It's incredibly important, even if it feels passive sometimes. When we say be around English or immersion, it just means, well, letting English exist in your environment as much as possible.
And you don't need to move to London or New York for that, right?
Absolutely not. You can create your own little immersion zone wherever you are.
So what are some easy ways to do that for a beginner?
Think simple. Listening to very easy English songs, like nursery rhymes or simple pop songs with clear lyrics.
Okay.
Watching those short, basic English learning videos we talked about. Maybe even changing the language setting on a simple app on your phone to English, if you already know what the buttons and icons mean.
Ah, like your weather app or something simple.
Yeah, something low stakes. The interesting thing is, even these small bits of exposure, they really help your brain get used to the sounds, the rhythm, the feel of English.
Even if you don't understand everything you hear.
Even then, it's like your brain is tuning into the frequency of the language, getting familiar with its music.
I like that idea, tuning in. Okay, and obviously vocabulary is key too, right? You need words to think with.
For sure. Building a basic vocabulary is crucial. But again, think about how you learn those words.
Not just lists with translations.
Ideally, no. Try to learn new simple words in context. See a picture of an apple. Learn the English word apple directly connected to that image.
So picture dictionaries would be good, or maybe flashcards with just the picture and the English word.
Exactly. Picture on one side, English word on the other. No native language translation if you can help it. Keep that direct link strong.
Okay. What about grammar? Does understanding grammar help you think in English?
It can, actually. Understanding even very basic English sentence structure, like subject, verb, object for simple sentences, I like pizza, gives you a framework.
A structure to hang your thoughts on.
Kind of, yeah. It helps you start building your own simple sentences in English, rather than trying to map your native language's grammar onto English, which often doesn't work well.
So encourage yourself to make really basic sentences.
Definitely. About yourself, about what you see. I see a book. The sky is blue. My dog is sleeping. These are the building blocks for thinking in English.
This all sounds great, but it also sounds like it takes effort and time.
It absolutely does. And that brings us to a really important point. Mindfulness and patience.
Be patient with yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stopping that ingrained habit of translating takes time and consistent practice. It won't happen overnight. It's okay.
So what should you do when you catch yourself translating? Get frustrated.
No, not at all. Just notice it. Be aware. I'm translating right now. And then gently, kindly, try to shift back to thinking in English.
Like redirecting your focus.
Exactly. Think of it like training a muscle. It requires repetition, consistency, and being kind to yourself during the process.
That's a good way to put it. Okay, one last thing we touched on earlier was language transfer. Can we just quickly explain that in simple terms?
Sure. Language transfer basically just means your first language, your L1, influences how you learn and use English, your L2.
Okay, and it can be good or bad.
Well, yeah, sometimes we talk about positive transfer and negative transfer. Positive is when something in your L1 is similar to English, and it actually helps you learn faster.
Like maybe similar words.
Could be similar words, or maybe a grammar point that works the same way. But negative transfer is when something in your L1 is different from English, and it leads you to make mistakes.
Okay, so maybe you use a word order from your language that sounds wrong in English.
Exactly. Or maybe a word looks or sounds similar but has a totally different meaning. Those are called false friends. For an A1 learner, the main thing is just to be aware that your L1 is always kind of there in the background.
And it might help sometimes, but sometimes it might trip you up a bit.
Precisely. Just being aware of it is helpful.
Okay. So wrapping this all up then, the main message here seems to be, it is possible to train your brain to think more directly in English.
Absolutely. Even right from the beginning, from the A1 level.
And the way to do it is through these small, consistent, practical steps.
Yeah, we really suggest you listen back. Maybe pick just one or two of the tips we talked about today.
Just one or two to start.
Yeah, don't try to do everything at once.
Yeah.
Pick one or two that feel achievable for you and really try to use them in your daily learning, your daily life.
Because every little step, every little bit of practice, it adds up.
Right, it really does. It helps you make progress, and bit by bit, English starts to feel more natural, less like a translation exercise.
Keep exploring, keep practicing.
And those aha moments where you suddenly understand or think something directly in English, they'll start happening more and more often.
That's the goal. So a final thought for you to take away. What simple English word, maybe from your surroundings right now, will you focus on just thinking about today, directly in English?
Good question to ponder.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Keep learning.
That's it for today's episode on Podcast Popcorn. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Got a topic you'd love us to cover? Leave your ideas in the comments. We're always listening, and your suggestion might be the star of our next episode. Until then, keep learning, stay confident, and see you soon.